The rain was hitting the kitchen window like tiny fingers tapping for attention. Lisa sat at the old wooden table, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had gone cold an hour ago. Across from her, Michael was scrolling through his phone, probably checking work emails even though it was almost 10 at night. This had become their routine. Sit together, exist in the same space, but somehow feel miles apart. 20 years. They'd been married for 20 years. 2 kids, a mortgage, a life built piece by piece. But lately something had shifted. Michael must have felt it too because he finally looked up from his phone and really looked at her. Not the quick glance he gave her in the morning before rushing out the door, but actually looked at her. "You've been quiet lately," he said, setting his phone face down on the table. "More than usual. What's going on in that head of yours?" Lisa felt her heart start beating faster. For 3 months she'd been carrying something heavy, something that kept her awake at night. She'd open her eyes at 3 in the morning and stare at the ceiling, wondering if she should tell him, wondering if she even could tell him. The truth was sitting in her chest like a stone, getting heavier every day. She took a breath. "If I tell you what I'm thinking," she whispered, looking directly into his eyes, "you won't sleep tonight." Michael's expression changed. The casual concern turned into something sharper, more alert. He leaned forward. "What does that mean? You're scaring me." Lisa stood up and walked to the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one they never used except for storing old cookbooks and papers nobody wanted to throw away. She pulled out a cardboard box, worn at the edges, and brought it back to the table. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Some yellowed with age, others more recent, all tied together with string that had started to fray. "Remember when Mom died 6 months ago?" Lisa asked, though of course he remembered. The funeral had been small, just family and a few old friends. Her mother had lived a quiet life, never caused trouble, never made waves. Just a simple woman who raised her daughter alone and worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. "When I was cleaning out her attic, I found these." Michael picked up one of the letters carefully, like it might break. The handwriting was small and precise. "What are they?" "Letters," Lisa said. "Letters that my mother wrote but never sent. And letters that were sent to her from people I've never heard of, names I don't recognize, places she supposedly never visited. Michael, these letters tell a completely different story than the one I grew up with." She watched as he opened one envelope and began reading. His eyes moved across the page, then stopped. He looked up at her. "This is addressed to someone named Elena. Your mother's name was Margaret." "I know," Lisa said quietly. "Keep reading." As Michael read through more letters, Lisa remembered the day she found them. She'd been alone in her mother's house, sorting through boxes of old clothes and photo albums. The attic had been hot and dusty, and she'd almost missed the box entirely. It was pushed into a corner, covered with an old blanket. Something about it looked deliberate, like it had been hidden on purpose. The first letter she'd opened had confused her. It talked about places her mother had never mentioned. Moscow, New York, Chicago. It mentioned names she'd never heard, and then there was a photograph tucked into one envelope. Her mother, young, maybe 25 years old, standing next to a man in an expensive suit. On the back, someone had written in Russian. Lisa didn't speak Russian, but the internet did. She'd taken a photo of the writing and translated it. The words had made her blood run cold. Father's birthday, 1984, before everything changed. Her mother had always told her that her father died before she was born. A car accident, sudden and tragic. Her mother never remarried, never even dated as far as Lisa knew. She'd said the pain was too much, that she preferred to focus on raising her daughter rather than trying to replace the love she'd lost. But these letters suggested something else entirely. They suggested her mother had been running from something. Or someone. Michael was on his 4th letter now. Lisa could see his hands starting to shake slightly. "Lisa, this letter talks about witness protection. It mentions federal agents. What was your mother involved in?" "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "But I've been trying to figure it out for 3 months. I've read every letter at least 10 times. I've searched online for the names mentioned. I've looked through every photo album, every document in her house. Mom wasn't just Margaret Chen from Ohio who worked as a nurse and liked gardening. She was someone else before I was born." Michael set down the letters and rubbed his face with both hands. "This is crazy. Your mom? The woman who made cookies for school bake sales and volunteered at the library? She was in witness protection?" "I think so," Lisa said. The letters mentioned testimony, threats, relocation. There's one from 1985 that talks about saying goodbye to her old life forever. Michael, I think my mother witnessed something bad. Really bad. And she had to disappear to stay safe. And your father? Lisa felt tears starting to form in her eyes. I don't think he's dead. I think he might be the reason she ran. The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Somewhere in the house, their daughter's alarm clock was ticking. Normal sounds in a night that had suddenly become anything but normal. Michael reached across the table and took her hand. Okay, let's think about this logically. If your mother was in witness protection, that was 40 years ago. Whatever she was running from, it's ancient history now, right? Lisa had hoped he would say that. She'd tried to convince herself of the same thing. But then 3 weeks ago, something happened that changed everything. She'd been getting the mail, sorting through bills and advertisements when she noticed a car parked across the street. A gray sedan with tinted windows. Nothing unusual about that except the car had been there every day for a week. Same spot, same time. She'd mentioned it to Michael, but he'd brushed it off. Probably someone visiting a neighbor. Maybe a new resident. Nothing to worry about. But then Lisa went to her mother's funeral. Small gathering, like she said. And in the parking lot of the cemetery, she'd seen it again. The same gray sedan, same tinted windows, parked far enough away to be unnoticed, but close enough that she caught a glimpse of it. Michael, she said slowly. There's more. There's a reason I'm telling you this now. A reason I'm scared. He squeezed her hand. What reason? Someone's been watching our house. Michael's expression changed instantly. The color drained from his face. What do you mean watching our house? Lisa told him about the gray sedan. About seeing it day after day. About the funeral. She watched as the realization hit him, as the pieces started falling into place in his mind just like they had in hers. How long? He asked. 3 weeks that I've noticed, but it might have been longer. Michael stood up and walked to the window, careful to stay to the side so he wouldn't be visible from outside. He peeked through the curtain. Is it there now? I don't know. Sometimes it comes at night. Sometimes during the day. There's no pattern. He let the curtain fall back and turned to face her. We need to call the police. And tell them what? Lisa asked. That there's a car parked on a public street? That my dead mother might have had a secret past? They'll think we're paranoid. Then what do we do? Lisa pulled out one more item from the box. A business card, crisp and new, with a name and number printed on it. 3 days ago, I contacted someone. A private investigator who specializes in cases like this. Cold cases, missing persons, witness protection. His name is Tom Rodriguez. I have a meeting with him tomorrow. Michael stared at the card. You did this without telling me? I was going to tell you. I just needed to figure out if I was being crazy first. If these letters were real or if I was making connections that weren't there. But then the car kept showing up and I knew. I knew this was real. My mother's past isn't dead, Michael. It's still out there. And now it's found us. The next morning felt different. Michael had barely slept, just like Lisa predicted. She'd heard him get up 3 times during the night, walking through the house, checking windows and doors. When their son came down for breakfast, Michael watched him with an intensity that made the boy uncomfortable. Dad, why are you staring at me? 13-year-old Ben asked, pouring cereal into a bowl. Just making sure you're okay, buddy, Michael said, forcing a smile. Their daughter, Rachel, came down next. She was 16 and constantly attached to her phone. But even she noticed something was off. What's wrong with you two? You look like you didn't sleep at all. Just some adult stuff, Lisa said, trying to sound casual. Nothing for you to worry about, but Rachel wasn't fooled. She'd inherited her grandmother's sharp instincts. Is it about Grandma? Are you still upset about the funeral? Lisa felt a pang in her chest. The funeral. Such a simple, quiet affair for a woman whose life had apparently been anything but simple. Something like that, honey. Eat your breakfast. You'll be late for school. After the kids left, Michael called his office and took a personal day. Lisa had already arranged to meet with Tom Rodriguez at 11. They decided to go together. The address was downtown, in one of those old buildings that had been converted into office spaces. The kind of place where lawyers and accountants worked, where everything smelled like coffee and old carpet. Rodriguez's office was on the 3rd floor. The door had his name painted on the glass in simple black letters. Inside, the space was small but organized. File cabinets lined one wall. A desk sat in the middle with 2 chairs across from it. And behind the desk sat Rodriguez himself. He was older than Lisa expected, maybe 60, with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. But when he stood to shake their hands, his grip was firm and his voice was steady. "Mrs. Peterson, Mr. Peterson, please sit down." Lisa had brought the box of letters. She set it on his desk carefully, like it contained something explosive. In a way, it did. Rodriguez opened the box and began examining the contents. He didn't rush. He read several letters completely, studied the photographs, made notes on a yellow legal pad. Lisa and Michael sat in silence, holding hands, waiting. After 20 minutes, Rodriguez finally looked up. His expression was serious. "How much do you know about Russian organized activity in the 1980s? Michael glanced at Lisa. "Not much. What we see in movies, I guess." "Then let me give you some context," Rodriguez said, leaning back in his chair. In the early 80s, there was a major push by federal authorities to crack down on organized groups operating in the United States. Russians, Italians, others. They were looking for people on the inside willing to talk, people who could provide evidence, testimony, names. He tapped one of the letters. "Your mother, Mrs. Peterson, was one of those people. Based on what I'm reading here, she wasn't just a witness. She was connected, deeply connected." "What does that mean?" Lisa asked, though part of her didn't want to know the answer. "It means she wasn't an innocent bystander who happened to see something wrong. She was part of the organization. Maybe not in a major role, but enough to have access to information, names, operations, money trails. When she decided to testify, she didn't just betray her colleagues. Based on this photograph and the note on the back, she betrayed family." Lisa felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "Family?" Rodriguez turned the photograph around so they could see it clearly. The young version of her mother standing next to the man in the expensive suit. "This man, based on the date and what I'm seeing in these letters, was likely your grandfather. And based on what your mother testified about, he was running a significant operation." Michael spoke up. "But that was 40 years ago. Those people would be old now or dead. Why would anyone still care?" Rodriguez gave them a look that made Lisa's stomach turn. "Because organizations like this don't forget. They pass grudges down through generations. And more importantly, according to these letters, your mother took something when she left. Something valuable. What did she take?" Lisa asked. "That's what we need to figure out." Rodriguez pulled out a different letter, one dated more recently, just 5 years ago. This letter mentions insurance and protection. Your mother was updating someone, keeping them informed. She was documenting things long after she entered witness protection. That's unusual. Most people in that program want to forget their old life completely. But your mother was maintaining records. Records of what? That's what concerns me. Rodriguez folded his hands on the desk. "Mrs. Peterson, have you noticed anything unusual lately? Anyone following you? Strange phone calls? Cars parked outside your home?" Lisa and Michael exchanged glances. She told Rodriguez about the gray sedan, about seeing it multiple times, about the funeral. Rodriguez's expression darkened. "That's what I was afraid of. Someone knows you exist. Someone knows you're Margaret's daughter, and they probably think you have whatever it is your mother took. But I don't have anything." Lisa protested. "Just these letters." "Are you sure? Think carefully. Did your mother give you anything before she died? A gift, a box, jewelry, anything that seemed meaningful?" Lisa tried to remember. The last few months of her mother's life had been difficult. Cancer had taken her quickly once it was diagnosed. Near the end, she was in and out of consciousness, on heavy medication for the pain. She'd said goodbye to the kids, had told Lisa she loved her, had held Michael's hand and thanked him for taking care of her daughter. And then, the day before she died, she'd done something strange. Lisa had almost forgotten about it because everything about those final days was strange and sad and overwhelming. But now, with Rodriguez asking, the memory came back clearly. Her mother had been wearing a necklace. A simple chain with a Russian Orthodox cross. Lisa had never seen her without it as far back as she could remember. Even in old photographs from Lisa's childhood, her mother wore that necklace. She'd worn it while gardening, while cooking, while sleeping. It never came off. But the day before she died, her mother had reached up with shaking hands and unclasped it. She'd pressed it into Lisa's palm and closed her daughter's fingers around it. "Keep this safe," her mother had whispered, her voice barely audible. "Don't lose it. Promise me." "I promise, Mom," Lisa had said, tears streaming down her face, thinking it was just a dying mother's wish to pass down a family heirloom. The necklace had been buried with her. Lisa had thought that's what her mother would have wanted, to be laid to rest wearing the one piece of jewelry she never took off. It had seemed right at the time. Now, sitting in Rodriguez's office, Lisa realized she might have made a terrible mistake. "There was a necklace," she said slowly. "My mother gave it to me the day before she died. But I buried it with her. It's in her grave." Rodriguez stood up abruptly. "Describe this necklace." "Just a simple chain with a Russian Orthodox cross. Silver, I think. She wore it every day of her life." "Was it hollow? Did it open?" Lisa thought about it. She'd never examined it closely. It was just part of her mother, like her eyes or her smile. "I don't know." "I never checked." Rodriguez began pacing. "Mrs. Peterson, Mr. Peterson, I need you to listen to me very carefully. If what I'm thinking is correct, that necklace isn't just jewelry. It's what everyone is looking for. And if people are willing to watch your house, to follow you, to wait patiently for months, then what's inside that necklace is worth a lot. Either in money or in information or in power." "What are you saying?" Michael asked. Rodriguez stopped pacing and looked at them directly. "I'm saying you need to get that necklace back soon, before someone else decides to get it first." The petition to exhume her mother's body took 2 weeks to approve. 2 weeks during which Lisa barely functioned. She went through the motions of daily life like a robot, making breakfast, dropping the kids at school, going to her part-time job at the bookstore, coming home, making dinner. But her mind was always somewhere else. Michael had become hyper-vigilant. He'd installed new locks on all the doors. He'd set up a camera system around the house, the kind you could monitor from your phone. Every time a car drove down their street, he'd check the feed. The gray sedan hadn't appeared again, which somehow made things worse. At least when they could see it, they knew where the threat was. Rodriguez had advised them to act normal, to not let on that they knew they were being watched. But how do you act normal when everything you thought you knew about your life was a lie? Lisa found herself looking at old photos differently now. Her mother at Lisa's wedding, smiling and happy. Was she thinking about her past life that day? Her mother helping Rachel with homework, patient and kind. Did she ever regret the choice she made to testify? Her mother holding baby Ben, tears in her eyes. Were those tears of joy or tears for the family she'd left behind? When the approval finally came through, Lisa felt sick. The idea of digging up her mother's grave felt wrong on every level. Disrespectful, horrible. But Rodriguez had been clear. If the necklace contained what he suspected, then they needed it before someone else tried to get it, and that someone else wouldn't bother with petitions and legal processes. The exhumation was scheduled for early morning, before the cemetery opened to visitors. Lisa and Michael stood at a distance watching as workers carefully excavated the grave. It was cold that morning. Lisa couldn't stop shivering, though she didn't know if it was from the temperature or from what they were doing. Rachel had started asking more questions. She knew something serious was happening. Lisa had tried to shield both kids from the truth, but Rachel was smart and persistent. The night before the exhumation, she'd cornered Lisa in the kitchen. "Mom, what's really going on? And don't say it's nothing. Dad installed cameras. You both barely sleep. You're doing something with Grandma's grave tomorrow." "I'm not stupid." Lisa had looked at her daughter, this young woman who was growing up too fast, and made a decision. "Sit down, honey. There are some things about your grandmother that I recently found out, things that are complicated and a little scary, but I promise you, Dad and I are handling it. We're keeping everyone safe." "Safe from what?" "From people who are interested in Grandma's past. That's all I can tell you right now. But Rachel, I need you to do something for me. I need you to pay attention when you're out. If you see anyone following you, if anyone approaches you asking about Grandma or our family, you call me immediately. Don't talk to them. Just call me." Rachel's eyes had widened. "You're really scaring me." "I don't mean to scare you. I just need you to be aware." "Can you do that?" Rachel had nodded slowly. "Does Ben know?" "Not yet. He's younger. I don't want to worry him unless I have to." Now standing in the cemetery, Lisa wondered if she should have told Rachel everything. But how do you explain to your child that their grandmother was connected to dangerous people? That there might be people out there who see your family as a means to an end? The workers signaled that they were ready. The casket was brought up carefully. Lisa turned away, unable to watch. Michael held her hand tight. Rodriguez was there too. He'd come as a witness, as support, as the only person outside their family who understood what was happening. When they opened the casket, he was the one who stepped forward. He was the one who gently, respectfully removed the necklace from around her mother's neck. He held it up to the light. examined it closely. Then he took out a small tool from his pocket and carefully pried at the base of the cross. It popped open. Inside was a tiny data chip, smaller than Lisa's fingernail, no bigger than a grain of rice. Rodriguez looked at them with an expression that mixed triumph and deep concern. "We need to leave now, and we need to see what's on this." They went back to Rodriguez's office. He had equipment there for this sort of thing. Old cases sometimes involved old technology. He connected the chip to a specialized reader, then to his computer. A password screen came up. "Of course," Rodriguez muttered. "Can't make it easy." Lisa stared at the screen. What password would her mother use? She tried obvious things. Her birthday. Lisa's birthday. Her address. Nothing worked. Then she remembered something. A game her mother used to play with her when she was little. Her mother would ask, "What's the magic word?" And little Lisa would giggle and say it wasn't please or thank you. The magic word was her mother's favorite flower. The one she planted every spring in their small garden. Lisa typed, "sunflower." The screen unlocked. Files began appearing. Dozens of them, hundreds, organized by date going back decades. The most recent entry was from 2 months before her mother died. Rodriguez opened the first file. It was a detailed record. Names, dates, locations, amounts of money. Businesses that were fronts for operations. Bank accounts in offshore locations. Connections between people who, on the surface, had nothing to do with each other. He scrolled through more files. Each one was meticulously documented. Photos, receipts, recorded conversations. Lisa's mother had spent 40 years building a comprehensive record of everything the organization did. Every person involved, every operation, every piece of money that changed hands. "This is incredible," Rodriguez said quietly. "Your mother created a roadmap of an entire network, not just the people she testified against in the 80s. She kept watching, kept documenting, kept updating. This information is worth millions, maybe more." "Why would she do this?" Michael asked. "Why not just disappear and live in peace?" Rodriguez looked at Lisa. Insurance. As long as she had this, she was valuable alive. If anything happened to her, she probably had arrangements for this information to be released. Mutually assured destruction. It's the only way someone in her position could truly stay safe. Lisa felt a strange mix of emotions, pride that her mother was so strong, so clever, anger that she'd lived this double life, sadness that she'd carried this burden alone for so long. "What do we do with it?" she asked. Before Rodriguez could answer, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his expression changed. "I need to take this." He stepped into the hallway, leaving Lisa and Michael alone with the computer screen full of secrets. They could hear Rodriguez's voice, muffled through the door. His tone shifted from professional to concerned to something that sounded like alarm. When he came back in, his face was pale. "We have a problem," he said. "That was a contact of mine in the federal system. 2 FBI agents are on their way here right now. They're coming to collect the evidence. That's good, right?" Michael said. "We can hand this over to the authorities and be done with it." Rodriguez shook his head. "That's the problem. These agents, they're not in the system. My contact couldn't find any record of them being assigned to this case. In fact, he couldn't find any record of them at all. Their credentials check out on the surface, but dig deeper and there's nothing. No employment history. No case files, nothing." Lisa felt her blood run cold. "You're saying they're not real FBI agents?" "I'm saying someone with enough power to create fake federal credentials is very interested in what's on that chip. And they'll be here in less than 20 minutes. They had maybe 15 minutes. Rodriguez moved quickly, copying the files onto 3 separate drives. His hands were steady even though Lisa could see the tension in his jaw. "We need to split these up," he said, handing one drive to Michael, one to Lisa, and keeping one himself. "Hide them in different locations. Don't tell anyone where, not even each other. If someone comes after one of you, they can only get one copy." "Where do we go?" Lisa asked, her voice shaking. Rodriguez was already packing up his office essentials. "Somewhere public for now. Then we figure out our next move. These people who are coming, they're not going to stop. Not with this much at stake." They left through the back entrance of the building. Rodriguez had a car parked in an alley nearby, an old sedan that had seen better days. As they drove away, Lisa looked back and saw 2 black SUVs pulling up in front of Rodriguez's building. Men in dark suits got out, moving with purpose. "They're here," she said. Rodriguez pressed harder on the gas. "Buckle up." He drove them to a busy shopping mall on the other side of town. Lots of people, lots of cameras, lots of witnesses. Safer than being isolated. They sat in the food court, blending in with families and teenagers while Rodriguez made calls on a phone Lisa had never seen him use before. "I have contacts," he explained between calls. "People who owe me favors. We need to move your family somewhere safe while we figure this out." "What about our kids?" Lisa said suddenly, panic flooding through her. "They're at school. What if those people go to the house? What if they—" Michael was already calling the school. He spoke calmly, professionally, explaining there was a family emergency and he needed to pick up both children immediately. Lisa could hear the secretary's questions, Michael's smooth responses. He'd always been good in a crisis. An hour later, they were all together in a hotel room 30 miles from their home. Rachel and Ben were confused and scared. Lisa had tried to explain without explaining, saying there was a situation with Grandma's estate, that they needed to stay away from the house for a bit, that everything would be okay. Ben seemed to accept this at face value. He was playing games on his phone, distracted. But Rachel knew better. "Mom," she said quietly, pulling Lisa aside, "tell me the truth. Are we in danger?" Lisa looked at her daughter and made a decision. Rachel was 16, old enough to understand, old enough to be careful. "Yes," she said simply. "Some people want something they think we have, something Grandma left behind. We're handling it, but we need to stay somewhere safe until it's resolved." "What did Grandma leave behind?" "Information. About bad people doing bad things. Information that could get them in serious trouble." Rachel processed this. "So Grandma was like a witness or something?" "Something like that. And these bad people want to make sure that information doesn't get out?" "Yes," Rachel nodded slowly. "Okay, what do we need to do?" Lisa felt a surge of pride in her daughter's composure. "Just stay with us. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't talk to anyone about this. Can you help me keep an eye on your brother without scaring him?" "Yeah, I can do that." Rodriguez came back with food. Pizza, burgers, sodas. Normal food for a completely abnormal situation. While they ate, he explained what he'd found out. "I talked to some old colleagues," he said. "People I trust. The men who showed up at my office are definitely not federal agents. But they have serious resources. The kind of resources that come from having friends in high places." "What does that mean?" Michael asked. "It means the organization your mother documented isn't just street operations anymore. They've evolved. They're embedded in legitimate businesses and financial institutions, maybe even in government. The people named in those files aren't mobsters in the traditional sense. They're businessmen, lawyers, judges, politicians." Lisa thought about the files she'd seen, the names she'd recognized. Some of them were people she'd seen on the news, people in positions of power and respect. How is that possible? 40 years, Rodriguez said. 40 years of building connections, of investing dirty money into clean businesses, of getting people into positions where they can influence things. Your mother understood that. That's why she kept documenting everything. She was watching them evolve. "So what do we do?" Michael asked. "We can't fight these people. We're just regular people with jobs and kids and a mortgage." Rodriguez leaned forward. "You have 3 options. 1, you destroy the evidence and hope they believe you and leave you alone. 2, you hand it over to them and definitely hope they leave you alone. 3, you release it, all of it. To the press, to law enforcement, to everyone at once. Make it so public that coming after you would draw too much attention." Lisa felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. "What happens if we release it?" "Some powerful people go down. Investigations start. Arrests happen. But also you become targets forever. These people don't forget. They don't forgive. You'd be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your lives. And if we don't release it?" Rodriguez's expression was grim. "You spend the rest of your lives wondering if you made the right choice. Wondering if your mother died to protect information that you just buried. And you never really know if they'll leave you alone or if someday they'll decide you're still a loose end worth tying up." The room was silent except for the sound of Ben's game and the TV playing, quietly in the background. Lisa looked at her husband, at her children, at the life they'd built that was now falling apart. That night, after the kids were asleep, Lisa and Michael sat on the hotel balcony. The city lights stretched out below them. Somewhere out there, people were living normal lives, going to dinner, watching movies, worrying about normal things like bills and work and whether their kids were doing okay in school. What are you thinking? Michael asked. Lisa remembered her mother at the end, struggling to breathe but determined to give Lisa that necklace. Keep it safe, she'd said. Don't lose it. At the time, Lisa thought she meant the necklace itself. Now she understood. Her mother had been trusting her with something bigger. I'm thinking about Mom, Lisa said, about how scared she must have been for all those years. Living with this secret, protecting it, updating it, knowing that if she ever slipped up, people would come for her. For us. She kept you safe, Michael said. She did. But she also left us this choice. She could have destroyed the evidence. She could have let it die with her. But she didn't. She gave it to me. That has to mean something. Michael took her hand. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. If you want to burn the drives and walk away, okay. If you want to release everything, okay. I'll support you either way. Lisa looked up at the stars. Her mother used to tell her that her grandfather loved looking at the stars. At the time, Lisa thought she meant her father, the one who supposedly died before she was born. Now she wondered if she meant her real grandfather, the one in the photograph, the one who ran operations and made choices that eventually led to his daughter testifying against him. What would he think of Lisa now? His granddaughter, someone he'd never met, holding the power to destroy everything he'd built? I need to talk to someone, Lisa said suddenly. Someone from that world. Someone who can tell me what my mother was really like before I was born. Rodriguez had mentioned that some of the people in the files might still be alive. Some might even be willing to talk. It was risky reaching out to them. But Lisa needed to understand who her mother had been before she became Margaret Chen, before she became a mother, before she made the choice that shaped Lisa's entire life. She needed to know what she was really fighting for. Rodriguez was against it. Meeting with anyone from that world is dangerous. They'll either try to manipulate you or worse. But Lisa was determined. After 2 more days in the hotel, after countless hours of reading through the files, she'd found a name. Elena Volkov, her mother's sister. Lisa's aunt. According to the files, Elena had left the organization years ago. But unlike her sister, she hadn't testified. She just disappeared, started over somewhere new. Rodriguez's contacts found her living in a small town in Colorado. She ran a bookstore of all things. Lived alone. Kept to herself. She agreed to meet with Lisa, though Rodriguez insisted on setting up the meeting in a public place with clear exit routes. They met at a cafe in downtown Denver. Michael and Rodriguez watched from a nearby table. The kids were with Rodriguez's ex-wife, who'd agreed to watch them without asking questions. Some favors went deep. Elena was older than the woman in the photographs, but Lisa could see her mother in her face. The same eyes, the same way of holding herself, straight backed but ready to run. You look like her, Elena said when Lisa sat down. My sister. You have her face. Thank you for meeting me, Lisa said. Her hands were shaking. She clasped them together under the table. I heard she died. I couldn't come to the funeral. Too dangerous, but I lit a candle for her. Elena's accent was faint but present. You found the files. How did you know? Because otherwise you wouldn't be here. Otherwise you wouldn't have found me. Elena sipped her coffee. My sister was smart. Smarter than me. I just ran away. She ran away with insurance, and I need to understand, Lisa said. I need to know who she was. Before me? Before witness protection? Before everything. Elena looked out the window. She was my baby sister. 5 years younger. Our father, he loved her more than anything. Maybe too much. He wanted to keep her innocent, keep her away from the business. But you can't grow up in that world and stay innocent. You see things. You hear things. You understand. What did she do? In the organization? She kept the books. Money coming in, money going out. She had a gift for numbers, for seeing patterns. Our father trusted her because she was family. He didn't realize that also meant she saw everything. Every dirty deal. Every payment to officials. Every time someone got hurt or disappeared. Lisa felt her chest tighten. What made her decide to testify? Elena's expression darkened. She fell in love. With a man who worked for a rival group. Our father found out. He gave the order to have the man eliminated. Your mother found out about the order before it happened. She tried to stop it, but she was too late. They made her watch, to teach her a lesson about loyalty. The cafe seemed too loud suddenly. The clinking of dishes, the conversation around them, the espresso machine hissing. Lisa focused on breathing. After that, Elena continued, She couldn't pretend anymore. She went to the FBI. She gave them everything. Names, locations, accounts. She burned it all down. Our father, our uncles, cousins, everyone. They went to prison. Some died there. The organization fell apart. And you? I didn't have the courage she had. I just left. New name, new life. I've spent 30 years looking over my shoulder, waiting for someone to find me. But they were too busy being angry at her to care about me. Lisa leaned forward. The files she kept. She updated them for 40 years. Why, Elena smiled, but it was sad. Because our father taught us one thing well. Information is power. Your mother knew that as long as she had proof. As long as she could expose them, they couldn't touch her. She was protecting herself. And protecting you. There are people looking for the files now, I know. I heard. The organization isn't what it was, but it adapted. Some of the sons and nephews, they joined legitimate businesses. They cleaned the money, built empires. But the foundation is still dirty. Your mother's files can prove that. They can bring down companies, politicians, judges. Too many powerful people have too much to lose. What should I do? Elena reached across the table and took Lisa's hand. Her skin was warm, calloused, real. That's not for me to tell you. But I can tell you what your mother would say. She would say that truth matters. That silence protects the guilty. She spent 40 years maintaining that evidence for a reason. She could have deleted it any time. She chose not to. But my kids will be in danger either way, Elena said bluntly. If you destroy the evidence, they wonder if you really destroyed it all. If you hand it over, they wonder if you made copies. If you release it, they know where everything stands. At least with the truth out there, you have the court of public opinion. You have investigators watching. You're safer in the spotlight than in the shadows. Lisa thought about her mother dying in that hospital bed, the cancer eating away at her body, but her mind still sharp until the very end. She'd held Lisa's hand and whispered things that Lisa thought were just the medication talking. Random words about being strong, about doing what's right even when it's hard, about protecting the family. Now Lisa understood. Those weren't random words. That was her mother's final message. Her final wish, she knew, Lisa said. At the end, she knew I'd find the files. She knew I'd have to make this choice. Of course she knew. She planned it that way. You were always going to be the one to finish what she started. They talked for another hour. Elena told stories about their mother as a young woman. How she loved dancing. How she wanted to be a teacher before the family business consumed everything. How she cried for 3 days after she testified, knowing she'd destroyed her own family to save others. When it was time to leave, Elena hugged Lisa tightly. I'm proud of you for coming here, for wanting to understand. Your mother would be proud too. Will I see you again? Maybe if things calm down. If the world becomes a little safer. Elena pulled back and looked at Lisa seriously. Whatever you decide, I support you. But decide soon. People are getting impatient. And impatient people make mistakes. Lisa returned to the hotel where Michael and the kids were waiting. Rachel immediately noticed something different in her mother's expression. You made a decision, Rachel said. Lisa nodded. I did. Over the next 3 days, Lisa and Rodriguez worked with 3 investigative journalists. They verified the files, cross-referenced the information, confirmed sources. The journalists were cautious at first, but once they saw the scope of what they had, they understood this was the story of a lifetime. Lisa also contacted the FBI. The real FBI this time, through channels Rodriguez trusted. She gave them copies of everything, demanded protective custody for her family, demanded a real investigation. The lead FBI agent, a woman named Catherine Wright, reviewed the files and went pale. This is bigger than anything I've seen in 20 years. Do you understand what you're handing us? Yes, Lisa said. I understand exactly what I'm handing you. And I understand that people are going to be very angry. That's why I need you to protect my family. We will, Wright promised. But you need to understand something too. This investigation will take years. Trials will take years. You'll be testifying, reliving all of this over and over. Are you ready for that? Lisa thought about her mother, testifying 40 years ago, brave and terrified at the same time. I'm ready. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. 3 major newspapers published simultaneously. Cable news picked it up within an hour. By afternoon, it was international. The files contained evidence implicating 17 business leaders, 5 judges, 3 members of Congress, and dozens of others. The first arrests happened that evening. Lisa watched the news from a safe house where federal marshals had moved her family. Rachel sat next to her, Ben on her other side. Michael stood behind them, his hands on Lisa's shoulders. "You did the right thing," Michael said softly. "I hope so," Lisa replied. The phone call started. Reporters wanting interviews, lawyers wanting to depose her, people claiming to be long-lost relatives. Rodriguez filtered everything, only letting through what was essential. One call stood out. It was from a prosecutor who'd worked on the original case in the 1980s, the one where Lisa's mother had testified. He was retired now, but he remembered. "Your mother was the bravest person I ever met," he told Lisa. She walked into that courtroom knowing she was destroying her entire world to do the right thing. Not many people have that kind of courage. Sounds like it runs in the family. Lisa thanked him and hung up. She walked to the window of the safe house and looked out at the ordinary street, at ordinary people living ordinary lives. In a few weeks, they'd have a new home, new names, new everything. The Witness Protection Program was offering them the same deal her mother had taken 40 years ago. But unlike her mother, Lisa wouldn't have to maintain the lie forever. The evidence was out there. The investigations were happening. Eventually, the danger would pass. Eventually, they could reclaim their real names, their real lives. Her phone buzzed. A text from Elena. "Your mother would be so proud." "Be safe, niece," Lisa smiled. She had an aunt now, a connection to her mother's past that was real and honest. Whatever happened next, she wasn't alone. 6 months passed. The trials began. Lisa testified in the first one, against a judge who'd been taking payments for favorable rulings for 20 years. She was nervous walking into that courtroom, but when she sat in the witness chair and looked at the jury, she felt her mother's presence. Felt that same courage that had sustained her mother.